Can a stranger save a life and become a true friend? Discover how an ant and a dove became heroes for each other in this heartwarming tale.
Join Kids Hut Stories.
One hot day, a little ant was very thirsty. It had been looking everywhere for water, searching all morning in the hot sun. Finally, it spotted a river nearby. The ant felt so happy and quickly went to drink from it. But as it reached the edge of the water and bent down to sip, it slipped on a wet stone and fell right into the river. The poor little ant was terrified. The river was flowing fast, and the ant didn't know how to swim well. It struggled and called out for help, even though it was so small and nobody could hear it. Just then, a kind dove resting in a tree above noticed the little ant in trouble. Without wasting a second, the dove plucked a big leaf from the tree and dropped it close to the ant. The leaf floated on the water, and the ant quickly climbed onto it. The leaf carried the ant safely to the river's edge. The ant was very grateful and said, "Thank you, dove. You saved my life." A few days later, the ant was walking through the forest and saw something dangerous. A hunter was pointing his bow and arrow at the same dove who had saved it. The hunter was being very quiet so the dove wouldn't see him. The ant knew it had to act quickly to help its friend. The brave ant crawled to the hunter and bit his foot as hard as it could. The hunter yelled in pain, dropping his bow. This sudden noise scared the dove, who quickly flew away to safety. The dove looked down from the sky and saw the ant waving. They both felt happy and thankful, knowing they had helped each other when it mattered most. Helping others is a kind thing to do. Even small friends can make a big difference. Acts of kindness, no matter how big or small, often come back to us in wonderful ways. Once upon a time, in a peaceful forest, lived a hare who was very proud of his speed. He often boasted about how fast he could run and mocked the slower animals, especially the tortoise. The tortoise, known for his patience and wisdom, would simply smile and continue with his day, never letting the hare's taunts bother him. One sunny day, after enduring yet another round of the hare's bragging, the tortoise decided he had had enough. He calmly approached the hare and said, "Hare, you may be fast, but I believe I can beat you in a race." The hare burst out laughing. "You beat me in a race? That's impossible." Unfazed, the tortoise replied, "Let's have a race and see what happens. We'll ask the fox to be the judge." The hare, still chuckling, agreed to the challenge. The fox, known for his fairness, agreed to oversee the race. He marked the start and finish lines and gathered all the forest animals to watch. On the day of the race, the animals assembled, excited to see the unlikely competition. The hare, confident and full of energy, stretched and warmed up, while the tortoise simply stood at the starting line, calm and ready. "On your marks, get set, go," shouted the fox. The hare zoomed off, disappearing down the path in a cloud of dust. The tortoise, in no hurry, began his steady, determined walk. The hare, already far ahead, decided to take a break under a shady tree. "There's no way the tortoise will catch up to me," he thought. "I'll take a short nap and still win easily." With that, he lay down and soon fell asleep. Meanwhile, the tortoise kept moving at his slow and steady pace, never stopping, and always focused on the finish line. Amazed by his determination and perseverance, the other animals cheered him on. Hours passed, and the tortoise continued his steady progress. He finally reached the tree where the hare was sleeping. Quietly, he walked past the hare and continued toward the finish line. The forest animals, seeing the tortoise nearing the finish, began to cheer loudly. The noise woke the hare, who leapt to his feet in a panic. He saw the tortoise just a short distance from the finish line and sprinted as fast as he could to catch up. But it was too late. With one final step, the tortoise crossed the finish line. The forest erupted in cheers for the tortoise. The hare, panting and exhausted, arrived moments later, unable to believe what had happened. "How could this be?" he gasped. "How did you beat me?" The tortoise, smiling warmly, replied, "Hare, you may be fast, but you were overconfident. You took me for granted and didn't take the race seriously. I may be slow, but I stayed focused and kept moving steadily toward my goal. That's why I won." The hare hung his head in shame, realizing the truth in the tortoise's words. From that day on, he learned to be more humble and to never underestimate others, no matter how unlikely their success might seem. And so, the tortoise and the hare remained friends, and the forest animals never forgot the valuable lesson: slow and steady wins the race. Once upon a time, in a sunny meadow, there lived a hard-working ant and a happy-go-lucky grasshopper. All summer long, the ant was very busy. He would wake up early every day, gather food, and store it in his cozy little home. The ant knew that winter would come, and he wanted to be ready. Meanwhile, the grasshopper loved to sing and dance. He spent his days hopping around, playing his violin, and enjoying the warm sunshine. One day, as the ant was carrying a heavy load of food, the grasshopper saw him and laughed. "Why are you working so hard, ant?" asked the grasshopper. "Come and play with me. The weather is beautiful, and there's plenty of food everywhere." The ant shook his head and smiled. "I'm getting ready for winter," he said. "When it's cold and snowy, there won't be any food. I need to make sure I have enough to eat." But the grasshopper didn't listen. He continued to play and sing, while the ant worked and worked. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Soon, summer was over, and autumn leaves began to fall. One chilly day, the grasshopper woke up shivering. He realized that winter was near. The grasshopper went to look for food, but there was nothing to be found. All the plants were bare, and the ground was covered in frost. Hungry and cold, the grasshopper remembered the hard-working ant. He hopped over to the ant's house and knocked on the door. "Please, ant," he begged. "I'm very hungry and cold. Can you share some of your food with me?" "Grasshopper," he said kindly, "all summer long I worked hard while you played. I saved enough food for myself. If I share it with you, I might not have enough to last through the winter." The grasshopper felt sad and understood that he should have worked hard like the ant. The ant shared a little food with the grasshopper and invited him to stay for a while. The grasshopper promised that next summer, he would work hard and be prepared for the winter too. And so, the ant and the grasshopper learned an important lesson. It's good to have fun, but it's also very important to work hard and be prepared for the future. Once upon a time, there was a playful little dog named Max. Max loved running around, exploring, and especially finding treats. One sunny day, he discovered a juicy, delicious bone in his backyard. Thrilled, Max grabbed the bone in his mouth and set off in search of a perfect spot to enjoy his tasty prize. Max trotted through fields until he reached a sparkling river nearby. As he peered into the water, he was amazed to see another dog holding a bone. "That bone looks even bigger than mine," Max thought, his eyes widening with excitement. He didn't realize he was looking at his own reflection in the river. Without thinking, Max decided he wanted the other dog's bone too. He opened his mouth to bark, but as soon as he did, his bone fell into the river with a splash. He watched in shock as his treat sank to the bottom, and the other dog vanished too. Max was left with nothing. Max felt disappointed as he realized what had happened. "I was so greedy that I lost my own bone," he thought sadly. With a heavy heart, Max walked back home, understanding the value of being happy with what he had. From that day on, whenever Max found a treat, he enjoyed it with gratitude and never forgot the lesson the river had taught him. And so, Max lived happily, a bit wiser, knowing that true happiness comes from appreciating what you have.
Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a farmer named Jack. Jack was not very rich, but he was content with the simple life he led. He owned a small farm where he grew vegetables, kept a few cows, and had a flock of chickens. Among these chickens, there was a very special goose. This goose was not like the others. It was pure white, with soft, gleaming feathers, and it had a gentle, calm demeanor that made it stand out. One morning, as Jack was gathering eggs from the henhouse, he noticed something strange. The special goose had laid an egg, but it wasn't an ordinary egg. It was shiny and bright, and when Jack picked it up, he realized it was made of solid gold. He couldn't believe his eyes. "A golden egg," he exclaimed. "This is unbelievable." Jack was overjoyed and ran to his wife, Mary, to show her the miraculous egg. "Look at this, Mary. Our goose laid a golden egg." "We're going to be rich," he said, his voice filled with excitement. Mary was just as astonished as Jack. "This is amazing, Jack. We must take good care of this goose. Imagine if it lays a golden egg every day. We'll never have to worry about money again," she said. And so, every morning, Jack and Mary eagerly went to the henhouse, and sure enough, the special goose laid a golden egg each day. With each egg, their wealth grew. They built a bigger house, bought more land, and soon, they became the richest couple in the village. However, as their wealth increased, so did their greed. One evening, as they were counting their gold, Jack said, "Mary, if this goose lays a golden egg every day, imagine how much gold must be inside it. What if we could get all the gold at once? We wouldn't have to wait day by day." Mary, tempted by the idea, agreed. "You're right, Jack. Why should we wait? Let's open the goose and take all the gold now," she said. The next morning, with heavy hearts but greedy minds, Jack and Mary decided to kill the goose and cut it open to get all the gold inside. But when they did, they found nothing but a regular goose. There was no gold inside, no treasure, just a lifeless bird. Their greed had blinded them, and in their desire to have more, they had lost everything. Jack and Mary were heartbroken. They had killed the goose that had brought them so much wealth, and now they had nothing left. The golden eggs stopped coming, and soon their riches dwindled away. They realized their mistake too late, understanding that their greed had led to their downfall. From that day on, Jack and Mary lived a simpler life, filled with regret for their foolish actions. They learned an important lesson: greed can destroy even the greatest fortune.
Once upon a time, in a peaceful pond, there lived a group of frogs. They were happy, but they had one problem. Their lives were often full of chaos, and they wished for a strong leader to help them. Tired of hopping around aimlessly, they prayed to the gods, asking for a king to rule over them. The gods heard their request and sent them a king, an enormous, mighty log that floated in the pond. The frogs were thrilled. They gathered around it, hoping for the king to give them commands. But the log just lay there, still and silent. The frogs quickly realized that it didn't help them at all. It didn't speak, move, or guide them. They were just as lost as before. Disappointed, the frogs asked the gods for a different king. This time, the gods sent them a huge, fearsome stork. The frogs were a bit scared, but they thought that a strong king like this would solve their problems. But the stork had different plans. Instead of guiding them, it began to hunt and eat the frogs one by one. The frogs quickly regretted asking for a new king. The frogs, now very few in number, realized that they had been wrong to wish for a king without thinking. They had asked for a leader out of impatience and ended up with someone who harmed them. They learned that sometimes it's better to appreciate what you have than to wish for something that might make things worse. Moral of the story is, be careful what you wish for you might get something worse than what you already have. One sunny day in the forest, a tired donkey was walking along, his heavy load making him slow. As he wandered, he found something surprising on the ground, a lion's skin. It was big and fluffy, just the right size to cover his body. The donkey thought, if I wear this, maybe I can be as strong and scary as a lion. Excited by his clever idea, the donkey put the lion's skin over his own body. He looked in a pond and smiled at what he saw. I look just like a lion, he thought. Now, I can scare the other animals and be the king of the forest. Feeling brave, the donkey strutted through the forest, pretending to be a lion. He roared loudly, hoping the animals would be scared. The animals heard the roar and quickly ran away, thinking a lion was coming. The donkey was pleased and continued walking around, trying to act like a mighty lion. As the donkey walked, he met some animals in the forest. He roared again, trying to sound as fierce as possible. But then, something happened. The donkey let out a loud neigh, the sound of a donkey. All the animals turned around and looked closely at the lion. They quickly realized it wasn't a lion at all. That's just a donkey in a lion's skin, the clever fox said, laughing. Soon, all the animals knew the truth, and the donkey was embarrassed. Feeling silly and ashamed, the donkey took off the lion's skin and walked away. He realized that no matter how much he tried to pretend, his true nature would always show. The animals may have been fooled for a while, but his name gave him away. He learned that it's better to be honest and true to who you are. Once upon a time, there were two mice, one from the peaceful countryside and one from the bustling city. The city mouse lived in a huge, busy city with tall buildings, fancy restaurants, and lots of excitement. But today, the city mouse was visiting his good friend, the country mouse, who lived in a cozy little nest at the bottom of a tree. Her home was small, but warm and comfortable, and surrounded by nature. The country mouse cooked a simple dinner with food from her garden, corn, carrots, acorns, and some cool, fresh water from the nearby stream. While they ate, the city mouse couldn't stop talking about the wonders of the city. City life is amazing, the city mouse said excitedly. I go to the theater, museums, and my house has 20 rooms. You have to come visit me. Have you ever tried Chinese food? It's delicious. That night, the country mouse couldn't stop thinking about all the fancy things the city mouse talked about. She dreamed of living in the city, eating at fancy restaurants, saying fancy things, and buying fancy hats. She even dreamed of tasting that Chinese food. The next morning, the country mouse made a decision. She wanted to visit the city. She packed her little bag, and off they went to the big city together. When they arrived, the country mouse was amazed. The city mouse's house was enormous. There were 20 rooms filled with beautiful furniture. "Which room is mine?" the country mouse asked curiously. "Well, we actually live down in the basement," the city mouse said sheepishly. He led her down some dark stairs, where lots of other mice families were living too. But the city mouse wanted to show her the best part, dinner. They went upstairs to the dining room, where there was a grand feast: cheese, bread, cookies, cakes, and lemonade. There was even Chinese food on the table. Just as they sat down to eat, there was a loud crash. A big, scary cat with sharp teeth and claws jumped onto the table. The cat screeched, chasing the two mice all around the room. They ran as fast as they could and hid in a tiny hole, trembling with fear. The mice stayed hidden until the cat finally left. But when they came back to the dining room, all the food was gone, eaten by the humans. The country mouse had had enough. She hurried back to the basement to pack her things. "Where are you going?" the city mouse asked, surprised. "I'm going home," the country mouse said. "Your city life isn't as wonderful as it seemed. I miss my peaceful, quiet life in the country." And so, the country mouse went back to her small but cozy home in the countryside, happy to be away from the noise and danger of the city. She realized that sometimes, the simple life is the best life. And that's the story of the city mouse and the country mouse, a reminder that what looks exciting and glamorous isn't always better. Once upon a time, on a hot summer day, a hungry fox was walking through a sunny orchard. As he strolled along, he spotted a bunch of juicy, purple grapes hanging from a tall vine. The grapes looked delicious, and the fox's mouth started to water. "I want those grapes," the fox said to himself. He jumped up to grab them, but they were too high. He tried again, leaping with all his might, but he still couldn't reach them. The grapes just dangled above him, out of his reach. The fox took a few steps back and ran as fast as he could, hoping to jump high enough this time. But no matter how hard he tried, the grapes stayed just out of reach. He jumped and jumped until he was tired and out of breath. Finally, the fox sat down to rest. He looked up at the grapes and said, "Those grapes are probably sour anyway. I don't really want them." With that, he turned and walked away, feeling a bit better about not getting the grapes. The fox wandered off to find something else to eat, leaving the grapes hanging high on the vine. Even though he couldn't have the grapes, the fox learned an important lesson that day. Sometimes, it's easy to say you don't want something when you can't have it. Accepting this truth, he felt wiser and more content. And so, the fox went on his way, looking for new adventures and something tasty to eat. As he explored further, the orchard revealed more wonders, and the fox's spirit remained high. Next, he entered an apple orchard, where he saw apples fallen on the ground. Overjoyed, he hurried over to the apples and began eating them happily. The sweet taste of the apples was a delightful reward after his earlier efforts. With his hunger satisfied and his energy renewed, the fox felt grateful for the unexpected treat. He realized that sometimes, better opportunities come along when you least expect them. And so, with a full belly and a happy heart, the fox continued his journey, ready for whatever new adventures lay ahead.
Hey everyone! Welcome to Kids Hut Stories. Have you ever felt like the only one left out of the fun? Maybe you wished everyone would pay a little more attention to you? Well, today's story features a shepherd boy who had a similar feeling, but his solution landed him in a big trouble. Let's see how a little prank turned into a big lesson.
Once upon a time there was a shepherd boy who used to take care of the sheep in a village. Every morning, he would take the herd of sheep to the top of the hill and bring them down by evening. But one day, he felt really bored. He thought that all the villagers worked together, but here I am all alone taking care of the sheep and no one else talked to me. What should I do? He took a deep breath and smiled as he got a wicked idea. He went over the edge of the hill and started shouting, "Help, help, there is a wolf chasing the sheep. Help, help, please somebody help. He is gonna eat all the sheep." The villagers heard the boys shouting and rushed up to the top of the hill to save the sheep. However, as they reached the hill, there was no sign of the wolf and sheep was grazing the grassland calmly. "You silly boy, where is the wolf? Why did you cry out for help?" asked the villagers. The boy laughed out loudly and said, "I fooled all of you." The villagers got very angry and warned the boy to not cry wolf when there is no wolf. Then they went grumbling back down the hill. The shepherd boy said to himself, "This was so much fun." The next day, the shepherd boy got bored again and decided to try the same prank again. The boy went to the hilltop and started shouting, "Wolf, wolf, the wolf is chasing the sheep. Please somebody help." Once again, the villagers rushed to the hilltop after hearing the boy's cry for help. However, this time too, the boy had fooled them. The boy laughed, as he saw villagers running up the hill again to save his sheep. The villagers said angrily, "This is not right and you would have to pay for this one day." With no regrets on his face, the shepherd boy went back to his sheep. Few days passed, and the shepherd boy was lying under the tree, while his sheep were grazing. He saw some sheep running here and there. He quickly stood up and saw a wolf approaching the herd. This time the wolf was real. The boy suddenly ran to the edge of the hill and started screaming for help. "Help, help, somebody help please. There is a wolf for real this time, he's gonna eat all the sheep. Help, please help." The villagers heard the boy shouting for help, but this time the villagers decided to ignore him as they thought he might be fooling them again. So, they didn't pay any heed to the boy's screams and kept doing their work. The boy kept on crying for help, but no one turned up this time. All he could do was stand there and watch his sheep getting killed by the wolf. One by one. It was about the sunset and the villagers wondered why the shepherd hadn't returned. They went up the hill searching for the boy. They found the boy sitting alone and weeping. The boy said in a meek voice, "There really was a wolf here, I cried for help, why didn't you come?" One of the villagers sat next to the boy and told him, "We warned you earlier, nobody believes a liar, even when he is telling the truth. You have brought this upon yourself." The boy learned his mistake and he never lied to anyone in his life again.
So, friends, the boy's prank backfired in a terrible way. This story teaches us a valuable lesson, that honesty is always the best policy. When we lie, even once, it can be hard to regain trust. The boy learned that the hard way. The villagers didn't believe him, even when there was real danger. Remember, friends, a reputation for honesty takes a long time to build, but a single lie can tear it down in an instant. So next time you're tempted to tell a white lie, Remember the shepherd boy and his lost sheep. Always be truthful, and you'll build strong and trusting relationships with everyone around you. If you liked this story, share this with your friends and family, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more exciting stories that teach us valuable life lessons.